So, as I was saying, Kenneth was mad at Rachel. Wait. So, as I was saying, Cleo was mad at Kenneth because he hurt Rachel. And the reason he hurt Rachel is because. So, the reason Kenneth's mad at Rachel is because she kissed Cleo. And the reason she kissed Cleo was because. So, when Rachel was feeling depressed and insecure about her looks, Cleo cheered her up and assured her that she was beautiful, and this led Rachel to kiss Cleo, and that created jealousy in Kenneth, and that led him to hurt Rachel. So yeah, Kenneth hurts Rachel and Cleo gets mad at him. And so that's why so the reason the gauntlet isn't working for Cleo is she's mad at Kenneth, and because she's mad, she doesn't have that desire to protect him like she should. And so eventually Kenneth convinces her that he's sorry for hurting. He convinces Cleo that he's sorry for hurting Rachel, and I want to talk about how they were arguing, and then Kenneth, like in the middle of the argument, Kenneth tells Cleo to kiss her, and Cleo's like, no way I'm gonna kiss you, I'm still mad at you. And so Kenneth convinces Cleo that he's sorry for hurting Rachel, and that's basically where he proposes. He says that he wants to marry her and really show her that he loves her. And this is where Cleo forgives Kenneth, and they kiss, and now that their love is restored, Cleo now has this desire to protect him again. And so the gauntlet works. And she destroys the Scratchers. And it's happily, and they live happily ever after, I guess. Though at the end of the book, they do need to resolve like a military conflict. It's just a little extra story that one military group thinks that the other infiltrated their base and assassinated their men, when in actuality it was the aliens. The aliens abducted military men and infected them with the parasite, so they turned into Scratchers or zombies, and the other military group blamed their their comrades from the different base, and there was almost a war between the military groups, but Cleo and Rachel convinced them that it was aliens and not their comrades from the different base. And so the leader of the military group is a good guy, but he's like he's been like corrupted with anger, and he wants to destroy the other military group because he thinks that they betrayed them. And his lieutenant Sam is more open-minded, and when this group of people say that it wasn't actually the military group in the north, he believes them, and he tries to convince the leader that to not act rashly against their comrades in the north, but he's so consumed with rage and a need for vengeance, and so his lieutenant ends up killing him, shooting him to end a war. And one man disagrees with this, and he wants to kill the lieutenant for killing their leader, but the lieutenant Sam, he convinces the soldier Hardin that it's for the greater good and that it's gonna stop the war. And Hardin leads everyone to believe that he's fine with it, but really he's not. And he just really wanted to get revenge against the guys in the north because he thinks they assassinated his friends. So he's really not cool with Sam killing their leader. And basically the fourth book is about him getting revenge against Kenneth for foiling his plan. Kenneth was the one who convinced Sam he was the one who convinced Sam to call off the war. And so Hardin wants revenge against Kenneth. That's the plot of the fourth book. So I went to the Inala office today and just did some accounting work And later on, I went to the Graceville office and I picked up keys for inspections tomorrow. We got some at Forest Lake, and so we're gonna be driving like at least 10 or 15 minutes to Forest Lake. It's not gonna be super close to where we live. So I went to the Graceville office, and there was the woman who's usually there is named Kimmy. She's 28 years old and she's Vietnamese, and she's the marketing or advertising manager. So what I notice about her work is that she uploads like advertising materials on social media. So for example, the business has open houses every Saturday, and she creates advertising materials saying like the time, the date, and the location, and she posts it on social media so prospective buyers can go to the property for the open house. And that's basically all I know about her job. I don't think she's interested in dating a guy like me, because for one thing, I'm younger than her and I don't make as much money as her. And I think with the money that she's making, she doesn't really need a boyfriend or a husband. And I don't think she's even really looking for that. So, yeah, I'm not really gonna pursue a relationship with her. So, when I went to the office, I noticed that she was listening to this song. It's like she was listening to the same song repeatedly, and it was about like a girl who gets betrayed by someone who she used to think loved her, and it turns out that he never really loved her. He just tricked her into thinking that he loved her in order to make her life miserable, and she compares the pain that she feels to like being bitten by a vampire and getting the blood sucked out of you. So I guess this could mean that she doesn't really trust guys, and she thinks that if she were to pursue a relationship with a guy, then it wouldn't end well. Or maybe she just likes this kind of music. I don't know, but so my mom said that she was preparing lunch, and I told her that I'd be home in 5 minutes, but I kind of changed my mind. I just wanted to record a video instead. So I'm not that hungry right now. I ate some instant noodles at the office, so that's why I wanted to just record a video first before eating some more. I want to talk about this one time where I had to go with my dad to the Graceville office at like 2:30 p.m. and I was just at the Inala office all day, and I wanted to go home, but we didn't have the keys for the inspections, so I tried to sneak away, but he caught me, and I ended up going with him to Graceville, and I really didn't want to go to Graceville because I didn't know when we'd be home, and so today I don't need to be with him all day just to get keys, because I now have my license and I have my own car to drive, so like I don't need to be with him all day just to grab keys, which is really nice. So I think my dad wants me to cut a key for him. It's like the key for the front door, and I passed the locksmith on my way home, but I didn't want to cut the key because it costs money and it costs time too, so I just didn't do it. I don't know if he was that serious about it, but whatever. So something I wanted to talk about is like jealousy in storytelling. I noticed that a lot of stories with a romance plot, there's always jealousy that complicates the relationship. For example, in the sitcom Friends. So in this show, one reason why they broke up was because Ross was jealous of Mark. Mark was this guy who Rachel worked with at Bloomingdale's, and you know, Rachel was like spending all this time working with him, and Ross is kind of left in the dark about her work and what she does, and while Mark seems to know everything about Rachel's work, and this creates jealousy, and it drives a wedge between Rachel and Ross. So I think this shows the importance of jealousy in romance plots. It complicates their relationships, and it kind of puts into question whether or not this character actually loves the guy or girl she's with, or if they really like this other person. So in my series, The Alien Annihilators, in book 2, there's a good example of how jealousy complicates romantic relationships. So Rachel's is infected with a parasite created by the aliens, and so what the aliens want to do is that they want to put the characters against each other to foil their plans to thwart the aliens. So what they do is that they get Rachel to kiss Kenneth, and Cleo and Rachel eventually get in a big argument about it. And you know, it's here where Cleo loses the desire to protect Rachel, and so the Gauntlet of Light stops working. And so when they're trapped in a submarine, and like there's like a hole in this submarine, and it starts to fill up with water, and what happens is that Cleo can't use the gauntlet to protect them because she lost the desire to protect the people she loves. And so, but when Rachel apologizes and Cleo forgives her, that's when the gauntlet starts working again, and she uses it to protect them and get them to safety above the water. So this is a good example of how I use jealousy to complicate the relationships between the characters. Cleo, deep down, Cleo loves Rachel as a friend, but her thinking that Rachel was making moves on her boyfriend, it complicated how she felt about Rachel and even created some enmity and anger against her. So Cleo also gets jealous of this princess of the Snow Kingdom. So Kenneth just got done defeating this ice wizard in battle, and he was alone with the princess in like the hut where he defeated the ice wizard. And so Cleo went to the hut to see if Kenneth was alright, and she saw them holding hands. And what this was the princess was just helping Kenneth up, and what ended up happening is that it looked like they were holding hands. And so at first Cleo's mad at Kenneth, but she eventually overhears Kenneth talking. She eventually overhears Kenneth talking to the princess. The princess tries to console her by, like, I don't know, like touching his shoulder, and just tries to console Kenneth, but Kenneth says not to touch him, and then he kind of blames the princess for he kind of blames the princess for putting a wedge between him and Cleo, and that basically he'd do anything to have Cleo back. And Cleo overhears this and realizes that nothing happened between Kenneth and the princess. And so she forgives him. And so I want to talk about this joke I made in the book. So when the princess leaves, Cleo goes into the hut and she tries to seduce Kenneth, and Kenneth doesn't understand what's going on. He's like, "What? Wait, I don't understand. What did I do right?" And Cleo's like, "I'll tell you about it later, but for now." And she just starts taking his clothes off, and they make love in the hut. So I think this is funny because Kenneth didn't know that Cleo overheard his conversation with the princess, so he has no idea why Cleo suddenly wants to have sex with him after she was so mad at him before. So yeah, I think this was a pretty funny little joke in the book.